Alrighty. Today we have a lower bracket match between Babosos and I Make Many Mistakes. This is the first game, but I started streaming it late. It was Bishop d4 with Baba Walk, but surprisingly Babosos actually has the black pieces here, or the white pieces. Just Bishop takes b2, Knight c2 line, and then Knight c to d4 line. King d6. I'm not too familiar with the theory, but I know about that much. Queen b5, not sure if that's a theory move, but it looks fine. Knight e4 looks like a little bit of a funky move. Not sure the entire idea here as the king blocks off f6. Um, this discovered attack on the queen, and the queen just slides over. Maybe rook takes c1 later for black. White would like to take that knight at some point, but not happening immediately. Not sure the plan for white here, as this queen move is a threat. And then you do have king to c7 and rook to b8 ideas, if that's an option. Knight e6 is an interesting move. You can take back with the king, but you can't take back with the queen, so it's going to delay them. But there is always rook takes c1 here. This is king stuck on g4 now. Not sure the plan for the rooks. Maybe there is bishop d3 later on. Rook b8 seems logical. Gonna want to slide the rook over to one of these squares. Probably e8 and then drop. Or leave it there. And I don't come knight to c5 now since the queen's on the other side. Um, threaten to take knight. Knight to d3 instead of bishop to e3 is interesting. Did not expect that much. Alright, king slides over. Obviously queen to c7 is the idea. But there is knight to c7 here. Or knight to c5. Babosos running really low on time, and he resigns. Yeah, that was a difficult position for white. Obviously, he had knight to c5 later, finding a move for them, though. He probably just needs to warm up. Not completely warmed up yet. But Babosos with the black pieces, I make many mistakes with the white pieces here. Score is 1-0, and I make many mistakes favor. And we have knight takes c2, rook takes c2, bishop h4. I wonder if either of these are prepped. I wonder if he did prep something for and I make many mistakes like in this one. I'm not too familiar what I make many mistakes plays nowadays. Bishop h4, rook g6, and he is just king pushing, which is oftentimes a method that is used when you don't know theory for this line. If it's preparation, I'm interested to see what he will do. But most players, when they just king push, because it is just a lot harder for black to play theory-wise, it's to get out of theory. It's just to threaten a very aggressive king advance, and any deviation from theory would be beneficial for black. Strong bishops, you eventually do have either bishop e4 or just bishop to d8 at some point. Just to cover these squares, or bishop e4 to threaten the rooks. Very strong bishops, very tough to deal with for black. Rook to b4 might be an idea here since bishop to g2 was played for first instead of king to f4. getting kind of stuck on the G rank or G file for now because it's gotta protect the rook. I mean, bishop G4 is still a move if you'd like it. Queen's obviously coming to B6, or it might stay there to just hold off the king, but the issue is knight F4 is a move, so it doesn't really hold anything. Rook takes D1 is also a move, but I think it's kind of early to play that. Granted, you might not get another opportunity because of knight E3. Alternatively, knight E3 might have been a better move here, but plays knight takes C1. So relieves the pressure on the queen, but removes black's second bishop. Rook C takes C1 would defend the knight, but not allow knight E3. Maybe you just go knight E3 here, um, allowing that to happen. Hitting the bishop, which is what happens, still putting pressure on the first rank, so this knight cannot move, so it's not completely lost. The knight can obviously just come here to relieve the pressure at some point, and now bishop e4 is played. So obviously both rooks are under attack, and it looks fine in this position to take the rook, and black just resigns. Not sure why it's against the resignation there. You are losing a rook, but it's a lot trickier position than it would be to resign in at least. Alright, king h3 line, Babosos gotta get back into the groove, going to his normal lines now. And I make many mistakes, indulges with bishop to e4 response, and this is so far standard line. Knight f3. I know it's a deviation, but I don't know the theory anymore. Past this. So 92. Not sure what the idea is here. Defending against this bishop, I assume. The knight does not have any attack here. And the bishop's diagonal is now cut off. But knight takes e2 seems like an option. But then the bishop takes on e2. And the rook still cannot take. And now white has probably the smallest double diagonal that you can receive in the game from an opening. Set opts for rook takes e1. Bishop e3, hitting the bishop. With bishop to d2, also a bit of move here, I guess. And just king to g4, interesting. Here would be a nice move eventually, but the no check rule denies it. So I assume that king to b3 here is fine. I mean, you don't even have to take the bishop. If you take the bishop, then the rook's placed on a better file. But the queen would be hanging, so maybe you just advance. And it's what's played so far. Rook to b6, opening this diagonal as well. This rook's in trouble here. I think bishop taking was better than this rook taking. It's turned into a troublesome position for Babosos. But maybe you sacrifice the queen here. Um, but I don't see a good way to do that because it's too slow to do it this way. After takes, it's just fine, even after allowing rook to e6. The bishop can always slide back. Obviously, if you allow the take and then rook takes h1 immediately after, there's still nothing threatening here. Sure, you have both the rook moves now, but maybe the bishop just simply slides back. The knight taking it won't accomplish much, may even complicate your position further. Knight f4, hitting the bishop, threatening knight or rook to e6, and it pins this bishop, so it deals with the threat here. I missed that move, but it looks like it was actually a good move in this situation. I mean, ideally, black would like to save this bishop because nothing else is under attack. You still have this square under a little bit of watch. Maybe you even go bishop f7 here. With a shot to maybe rook e7. But bishop f7 should block these squares, so even if you do place either the knight or the rook here, you still can't advance, because the queen obviously stops f6. Instead opts for taking the rook. Queen almost has to take back to save this rook, and rook e6 probably the next move, or we might see even rook e7 at this point with knight e6 to follow. Bishop is still not on the best position though. Obviously there's bishop takes b1 at some point. Not sure when that one should be played. Knight to d5 instead played. Interesting. So it hits the rook, but it also denies king to b4, which is the interesting thing. King to a4 does open up the rook, but the queen is trapped here. Queen to a5. Still no king to b4 though, but it feels like bishop takes on b1. Now would have been fine. Oh yeah, white looking fine here now. That move was interesting, but maybe you just skewer the pieces now? Rather as king to c4 after that. Sacrificing the queen. Unfortunately, it doesn't even work if the queen takes, because then you have king f7 and rook to b8, rook to e7, bishop to c5. Oh, but I did miss that one. So I guess it does work. Um, Interesting that he took the queen then. Just had to calculate one move further in the same amount of time. But 3-0 in or 2-1 in I Make Many Mistakes favor. Babosos finally grabs the game back. And it's a good game to grab back, as Babosos was unable to do so until very late in the Cyber Shorter series. So for him to do this against I Make Many Mistakes is a big step up for him. I'm glad he's playing at a better level today. Maybe he's able to actually clear his mind today. Um, this Queen A4 stuff is really annoying, but and well, if this is theory, this is really weird. Um, really weird stuff. I doubt it's theory, but it's very interesting moves here from the opening. So obviously, I Make Mistakes has been playing this knight to c3 and this knight takes c2 bubble walk line. Um, and then this is a common theme to hit the knight again. But to remove the knight from c2, back to e1 seems a little funky. Have not seen that before. Queen h4, knight takes f2. Probably just rook takes f2 at this point. I don't think there's any knight f3 stuff. The king takes instead. Maybe looking for rook to g4. Um, I mean, there is no stopping the third rank immediately, so doesn't look terrible. And because this rook pins the knight, there is no knight takes f1. Rook a2. I don't know, maybe queen to b4 would have been better there. Rook g4 is played. And then queen to b4. Give me a moment. So we did have bishop to d3 and then king j4. Bishop, again, keeping an eye on the rook on b1. But this time opposite pieces. Obviously, this is a very slow way to keep the stress on this rank. Rook to g6 is interesting. Rook to g5 almost seems better, but there is rook j3, and king to e3 is like the only way to stop any big threats, but then you lose your queen. So maybe just king to g3 after that one, because at least you stop this. Um, Black here maybe just opens up, like queen to g4. The bishop could come back to hit it, but I mean, is that really necessary? Alternatively, the king can go to a5. Queen g4 seems slow, but it does cramp up all the major pieces for white. So it might get tricky. Opts to save the rook instead. I don't think was absolutely necessary. Rook a3 was also moved there, as I was pointing out. I think that one would have been a bit stronger because after takes, you still have the king on the second rank. Um, and you also have knight takes back, opening up the bishop's diagonal. It looks playable for black. I make many mistakes here. Um, Tricky position for both players. Queen to d4. Honestly, don't know what to play here for white. Maybe rook 1 g5 would have been an idea, but queen to d4. And obviously putting it on this diagonal, but now the knight's no longer pinned, but you save this knight, knight to b3. Obviously hitting the queen two ways now, so probably just queen to e4. And look at all black's pieces. This is crazy. Transition from these 8 squares to these 8 squares. Queen to d5 instead, unpinning the queen. Queen h4 or queen to g4, maybe some potential ideas later on. Immediately though, you got some trouble with your pieces coordination here. Rook to c1 seems like not the greatest move to play in this situation. Maybe there is rook to c5, but the issue I see is knight to c1 because the rook Sure, you can take it, but then what's going to the sixth rank at that time? Nothing. Um, and this hits the queen. It really cramps up the position. I would have just played knight to c1 there. Knight to c1 played now. Are we gonna see queen trade and then rook trade and then black's up a piece, but then white has a little bit better positioning. Looks like it could be easily a draw. Maybe you even sack the bishop there. I guess there's that. But I don't know, sacking the bishop there might have been winning for black instead of just draw. But no, just king here. And there takes. Why king takes? You have a knight takes there. Knight takes and then king to c7. Black was winning. Oh no. Well, it turned out to be a draw. All right. Similar line to last time, except queen to b3 instead of king to here because of rook g6 was played. But the position, the pieces are also swapped. Babosos obviously knows the theory for this line. Is bishop h3 actually the move here with bishop f5 in line? Because it's a double attack, well, fork and a double attack idea eventually. I mean, this bishop move almost has to come. Your queen's still stuck here, so you can't move your king yet. Maybe queen h5 is an idea. Queen h5 doesn't look good though. Rook 1 g5, knight b3 maybe is another option. Yeah, queen h5. You're showing your queen on a useless position, giving up this diagonal. A lot of things wrong with that. Rook e6. Don't know what this move accomplishes. Maybe allowing rook to g6, then bishop g2. Seems very slow of an idea. Maybe even have just rook to b6 here. Queen e4, hitting the queen, and isn't the queen just hanging? I mean, am I missing something, or is the queen just hanging? Hopefully Babosos doesn't resign from losing his queen. It is a pretty silly thing to do, but yeah, bishop g2. And white resigns. Why not play that out? It's not completely over yet. You're down a rook for a queen, and I guess there's knight off the board, but you do have rook takes d1 after the threat. I made many mistakes. Go up 3.5 to 2.5. I assume a break. Alright, there is a break called by Babosos. Yeah, unfortunately, it's 3.5 to 1.5. We'll analyze some of the games. All right, this is the first game. Bishop d4, or the bishop takes b2 line. Looks fine here. This move is actually interesting. And queen takes d4. Yeah, the knight's free. The bishop pins. But king to e5 looks like king to d5 looks like a stronger pin. Apparently, you're supposed to play queen h3 or king h3 here at lower depth, but king g3 is fine after. Don't know the theory here. King d6, queen h7, queen to b5, totally fine here. King to g4, all fine stuff. Knight takes c1, queen moves over, and king to c6 actually is winning for black here. Rook to b8 does not. Then you obviously had this move, but bishop to c4 apparently was better. King to c6, and white resigns, even though it is actually a complete draw here. Yeah, I don't know why white resigned. Didn't even want to think it out. Obviously, they were low on time, but just play something. And then go from there. Knight e to c5 was obviously ideal, but knight takes c5, so yeah, rook a2 is not the easiest move to spot. So it was a little complicated position, but I mean, with 38 seconds on the clock, he should have been able to come up with something. It's game one though. He was warming up, and then we go into game two. And I mean, it's a pretty quick game. This one, and then queen to d4, knight takes c1, knight e3. All good moves. I don't know what the valuation is. Obviously, the engine favors white, but yeah, obviously you're not losing here. Knight to d5, and bishop takes c2. If you can manage to leave this knight here, then it's not over. Sure, it's much better for white, but I mean, look at the clock. Sure, white has 2 minutes, and you only have 48.7 seconds, but I mean, play it out. If you need some time, like you're not all the way awake, again, just let the time waste out. There's no shame in letting your time run and then resigning a little bit later on just to recollect yourself. But it seems like he did recollect himself enough for game three. Um, not letting me move the pieces. Oh, my screen's frozen, so I guess we'll just sit by and wait until it unfreezes. Alright, we'll be back momentarily. Alright, we managed to get some of it back, but king h3, bishop e4, game 3, knight f3 was played. Obviously a sideline, but everything fine here. And this one's actually computer analyzed. Maybe that was what screwed me up. Someone computer analyzed it. Alright. All fine moves up to here, and king f5, rook b6 is actually not very good for black. And maybe this is where it starts going wrong. Yeah. Finding knight to d5 here was amazing from Babosos. Manages to basically decide the game here. If he did go with any of the Ds I was saying, sure, it seems like they work out, but this one obviously is better. But and yeah, rook g7. This was a silly move. Take the queen, but yeah, queen to g8 holds on very well. Obviously, there's bishop e. Not sure the full length of this line, but yeah, after takes, you can at least open up and get rook to b8. But yeah, a bit silly to accept the queen sacrifice, but I make many mistakes did. A very good sacrifice there. Definitely a candidate for move of the tournament so far. Obviously, there's been a couple amazing ones. But yeah, apparently this is theory. Geez, kind of silly that this is theory. And yeah, this is also fine stuff. Yeah, and like I was saying, knight c2 here, but here again, knight c2. Then finally knight c2 was played. Yeah, black's slightly better here. And yeah, I don't know what the idea here was. Yeah, and then just knight takes c5. It's unfortunate that Babosos missed that, as he could have won back-to-back and evened out the series. But then here he resigns early again. Yeah, and this is silly, but again, it's completely winning for black by the analysis of the engine, but it's not completely over, as you do have options here. Be sure the queen comes back and defends, I guess. But let's say the queen didn't. Let's say the queen moved to here and set back to d, and then you do have rook takes d1. Although, I guess your rook's pinned. So, I don't know, it's just a very early resign with 2 minutes on your clock. Obviously you need to recollect, but I don't think it's over yet. Anyways, that's what the series has been so far. Unfortunately, Babosos missed a couple opportunities, but, well, I'll see the players once they're starting back up. All right, the players are back. I make many mistakes with the white pieces in game 6. And we have knight takes c2. Is that correct? Yes, it is. King b3. Baba walk line. Aid by Babosos. And the same line as game. Was it game 4 that this was played? I believe it was. So, same line as last time. Everything the same so far. I wonder if either of them decided to analyze and see what was different. But this line ended up resulting in the position that Babosos with the black pieces was winning. But now they're gonna have more time on their clock, so probably gonna see some deviations. Rook J2 once again, G4, and Queen to B4. Knight to D3 is played immediately this time, and we have our first deviating move. Queen to C3, and Knight to E3. I mean, white looks really strong here. And bishop A3. Knight and rook double attack, but because of no check rook, there's only one attacking piece. As long as rook stays here, the bishop's fine. Not exactly going to have a way to undo that. Maybe you have bishop e2, but then you lose some strength. I don't know, it's comfortable for black. Your pieces are situated in a nice way where as soon as you're able to open up the position, it's going to be beneficial for you. But yeah, I mean, bishop e2 is maybe an option. It's what I'm seeing for this one. Maybe you just slide the rook over and try to advance. Obviously not there because of knight f3. Causes some stickiness. Actually, knight f3 is in the threat. It's bishop c5, pinning that rook. Rook to g6 just played. Is queen to c4 available with just king to a4? Sure, there's knight e5, but then it blocks off the fifth rank, and maybe you have just something like that. I don't know. It doesn't seem like you can sacrifice your queen in this situation. Maybe even rook a to a1 is here as a move for black. I just noticed that because the king can't slide over this way. So if we go back here, rook to a to a1, double attack here. You can't say the bishop, otherwise you're losing the rooks. Maybe there's a way to defend it with like queen f4. This is an awkward move because it does allow the king to advance. But just thought of that move. But bishop 2 was played, and now the rooks are getting traded off the board. Rook to a4, rook back to g4, maybe just rook to c4. Rook to c4, there's knight e5. Even knight takes. On b3. Oh, never mind. Rook to c4. Knight spin, duh. So takes. And are we just seeing queen to c4? Queen to c4 and takes is actually very tricky. Because if you take back, it's actually not a draw because It's not a draw because the king is going to be able to stop you from advancing. Because after you go here, so it's just here immediately. You also have the knight, which actually can come to a4. Blocks off both these squares. The bishop has here. I guess here if the knight move, so if knight takes after trade, I guess you can just resort to this diagonal even. Should be winning for white. I'd have to see the actual position to determine that entirely. But bishop a3, bishop just keeps on going back and forth. Looking for a shuffle, I guess, where he can eventually find something that would work out. Don't know if bishop c5 works here with sacrificing, because you do have nothing, because then you lose your queen. Just back to b2. Maybe queen a5 after king to f4. This knight on d3 becoming real painful for Babosos here. The issue is after it moves too, is the knight attacks the bishop. So queen a5, just knight takes. Runs at a time. I make many mistakes, goes up 4.5 to 1.5. And we're going into a potential match point game in game 7. Babosos with the white pieces opts for king to d3. King d3, king f4, king c4. And knight takes c2. Rook takes e2. Bishop e4. This is all standard stuff, but this is a pretty well-known draw line. Queen h7. Rook to b7. This one's actually a little bit trickier because the king's on f4 instead of h4. I mean, that wasn't completely necessary either. Now your rook here looks a little bit silly. I don't think this was the draw. I thought you just play here. Then the rook comes to g7. Rook comes here. Rook comes here. And then you advance. Rook to g8. And then you figure out what to do with this rook. Knight c1 played. Mean white looks fine here. But I'm not sure what black's plan is. I mean, if you want safety, just go like bishop to d3. Just save the bishop. Maybe rook takes d2. Just gobble up the pieces for black as white here. I mean, do you disconnect the rooks at this point? Threaten this knight. Knight can come to e3, but then you take the rook. Maybe it might be 2 here, and then you still take the rook. This looks completely winning for white. I'm pretty sure rook takes a1 just is not the move in that line. And I make many mistakes resigns. 4.5 to 2.5. And we go into a game 8. I make mistakes with the white pieces. And yet another match point game. Like knight takes c2 again. Are we going to see the same? Nope, we aren't going to see the bubble walk line. We're seeing bishop h4 again. Babosos likely prep something in the break. I felt like the other line was I make many mistakes preparation, but this one, I'm sure Babosos has something. So what he played here wasn't bad. He played queen to d4, and this followed up with knight takes c1, and afterwards he played knight e3. Here he opts for knight f2 immediately, which doesn't accomplish anything. The queen here is fine. Obviously, there is no bishop e4 later on. There is now, if he lied to. Usually these are two common moves that you don't want to play in this line, which is knight f2 and king to b3 before rook to b6. King takes f2 looks fine. Maybe we're going to see a like queen a3, rook b3, or rook c3, one of the three moves here. But then knight takes c1. So bishop a3 instead opted for. Hitting the rook. Rook's protected here. Still no check roll does not allow the queen to be taken afterwards. Maybe rook to c4. There is no threat with that. Rook to c4. I don't see any of the minor pieces attacking that rook. But I make many mistakes is just up a bishop at this point for 2 ranks, but all the major pieces for black are undeveloped and not looking too happy. Rook to c4 was played. Just defending this rank. Queen's obviously tied here. Maybe if white doesn't see it, rook takes g1, queen takes g1, and eventually rook takes h4, but your queen would be hanging at that point. Bishop g3 instead opted for. Instead, have a strong double diagonal for white. Not super clear the position. It's probably slightly better for white. Maybe knight b3, knight b5, knight to c6. Seems kind of slow. Yeah, I wouldn't know what to do with black here. Rook takes, queen takes. Where's your queen going? Is queen going just to h8? I mean, that actually seems like a fine move. Also did play queen to h8. But now you have this triple diagonal set up. If you can get the king out of the way, which at this point, yeah, king takes d2 is fine. Wow, this king has journeyed along the dark squares all the way to d2. And bishop c5, queen to h1, queen to e8, hitting this rook, and then king to d3, defending the rook. I mean, this is quite the king walk over here for my Make Many Mistakes. We saw it in another game a while back from him, where it was a king g3 line with king f4, and then he comes back to e3. Just maybe bishop to b7 here. I mean, this looks winning for white. Just these diagonals, you have nothing to deal with them, because you have a rook and a queen to deal with the rook and the queen. If you're able to trade the queens off, then the rook will be fine, but you have one bishop to deal with both of these diagonals, and you're not going to be able to do that. White should be able to hold on here if they don't blunder something silly, because they have this knight here as an extra piece to move forward. As long as they have these together, then it's totally fine. I mean, you even have bishop to c6 here, if you'd like to. The bishop unpins with maybe something like that, but then the queen comes, the queen takes, and now it's just over. But knight to c3, hitting the rook. The rook's gonna drop back, maybe come to g1 to hit both of these. Queen to d7, saves the queen. Very long time for Babosos. I make many mistakes with plenty of time with the white pieces. I'd be surprised if Babosos wins this game, but a draw here isn't super far-fetched. Yeah, what is this move here? I make many mistakes. Now you got this X-ray attack. Maybe you just play here, save your bishop. Oh, you could have taken it. Unfortunately, he has to move fast, but after this, you can take, and it's totally fine for white. And you might actually have a chance, or for black. Just here. Well, yeah, after the bishop, you do have bishop takes there. It's a stalemate. Oh, wow. Well, that was a wild endgame. I'm sure we're gonna have to look at that one, but I make many mistakes could have easily had one of the most beautiful wins there, and it turns into a stalemate. 5-3. Now I make many mistakes just needs a draw. Bishop to d4 for Babosos. Heading into a rook h2 line. Queen a5. Knight takes c2. Rook takes c2. King4. All standard stuff here. Knight to b3 is another option earlier on. But for rook to b5, bishop h3, I don't think bishop h3 is the main line anymore. But, I mean, you have bishop f5. Trades, and then this fork. This has been played before. I believe even against I Make Many Mistakes. I don't remember who prepped it. Either I Make Many Mistakes or Babosos played this exact line in a previous match. I'm sure we'll look at the opening explorer and be able to see. Bishop h7. Yeah, this was Babosos' prep against Cyber Shredder. And this is the line that he used to beat Cyber Shredder once, and I believe draw the other, well, attempt to draw the other time. But unfortunately lost. And I believe this is the line that he lost the series with, but Yeah, very tricky line. Um, it's very nice to see Babosos play this line again. He won a very difficult position with it. All right, Rook G5. I think it's a deviation from what's. No, I believe this is still the same line. The knights are a little bit more coordinated. Queen to C6 was played. Maybe you have Queen to F6 later. But Queen to B6 looks very lethal. Maybe Queen to F6 here. But just Rook to G6 makes sense, but now it's cut off. But the rook's unprotected, so you don't have to move quite yet. Like you don't have to worry quite yet, in other words. Queen to D7? Maybe with Queen to G7? Giving up the queen for the rook. And this is actually the winning idea that Babosos had last time, is that he did give up his queen and took the rook. The thing is that after takes, should be winning for white. Maybe here instead, afterwards. So decide to take, and then we're going to see takes. Takes. King to G6. Because if you just advance your king, you're going to get there first. So queen to B7. And then you have rook H5. Maybe knight here. I don't know, maybe this is a draw. I guess king to F6 then. A queen to B7 and then rook H5. That way there is no knight here. The knight will come here, threatening this at some point, but it doesn't work out. Does not play um, king to F6 and does not play queen to B7. So plays queen to C7. I don't think there is much difference there for black, but huge difference for white, because now rook H5 does not work. You just play rook H7, then just king to C5. I guess that's why you do play queen to C7 instead of queen to B7, because then rook H7 would have won. Rook H5 now doesn't work, because you just have knight to D5. Bishop F7. After knight to D5. King up. King up. Queen's gonna come here. After here, just king up. Over king up. It's a draw. Just a draw. Or does bishop E8 work? After takes, rook H8. Advance. Rook takes. Advance. Does bishop E8 work here for white? Oh my goodness. Why would you offer draw? Does bishop e8 work there? Bishop e8. Oh no, Babosos. Bishop e8. You were winning. You had a mate in four. You had a mate in four. Oh no. Oh no. That is a tragic way to see this series end. It could have gone to your game 10. Well, the series ends in I Make Many Mistakes' favor. I Make Many Mistakes will move on, but Bosos is now eliminated from the Racing Kings World Championship. It was a good match nonetheless. Not the most refined match, but a good match. And good luck to the players as they move forward.